Yeah, so Leslie, this is not this is a synchronous session, but it's basically for Q&A for the questions that you guys have about week 6, because it is not something that you guys are examined on in this coming week. Uh, I guess there'll be less interest in learning about that. So we're going to have our normal synchronous session where I review what we were learning in week 6 in week 7. So this week is of course recess week. So it's just a chance for you guys to catch up with me, for me to catch up with you, and then for you to raise any questions about the exam, the materials, etc. Yeah. So Li Shuo, also thanks for joining us. So it's actually 4 o'clock already. So we'll get started. Basically, what we want to do is make sure that if you have any questions about the exam or the materials, that we can cover those, right? And then secondly, to respond to, well, actually go over the protocol for the exam, because I think most of you, hopefully all of you, will actually look at have actually experienced the mock exam by the end of the week. So that's important. So if you feel like dropping the call early, there's no worries. Of course, you're free to go anytime you want. So as always, we have the Ask Me Anything poll. So you can ask it in the chat as well, because there's so few of you, I can probably keep up with both. But of course, the chat won't necessarily show up on the recording, so that's fine. You can do either one. Okay. So as I highlighted, we are just going to review any questions that you have in particular, but not actually go over week 6, because week 6 is not on the exam. So we'll go over that in week 7. Okay. So we only have one question so far. So as always, I will try to spend some time doing something else while we collect some questions from you. So right now we only have one question about the free class classifier. And because we have so few people on the call, we can treat it like a friendly tutorial. So if you don't mind, you can unmute or show your face using the video feed. That's no problem. No worries if not. So we have our exam in week 7, which is exactly 1 week from today. So 4 o'clock next week, you guys should be logged in to take your exam. There will be no Ask Me Anything session then. So maybe what we'll do is we'll actually do some of the week 6 recap, because I understand, yeah, maybe we won't have a chance to do that later. But let me first do a review of how the exam situation is going to set up, okay? And hopefully that won't take long. So you guys should all be experiencing a e-exam this week. In fact, I went through one session this afternoon at 2 o'clock, and it's a mess. So I hope our session goes better than that. So you do need to be aware of how the exam protocol works out. Okay, so you'll need your laptop. You'll need a side camera so that that can display, so you can take your phone and then put it on the side so that you can see a little bit of your screen, not revealing your answers, and your desktop, so the table in front of you, and the style profile of you. Okay, so that's a requirement. The other requirement is that you're not allowed to use another device. So that includes an external monitor, because we want to make sure that when we record your screen, we are actually getting a recording of everything that you have access to. So the exam is open book. So you're allowed to open whatever materials on the web, your web browser, etc. Except of course to communicate with each other. So don't open any chat clients or email that's going to go to other people. Okay, the only exception to that is Microsoft Teams and Zoom chat. Those two you can use to communicate to your invigilators for your session. Okay, the other hardware that people are usually not aware of that's disallowed is headphones. Okay, so you're not allowed to use headphones. You actually have to just use your speakers, because we want to also record your audio, because there's a lot of good mystery and crime that's conducted with earpieces, right? So we want to make sure that you're taking the exam fairly, that you're not getting any other audio information piped into you that we can't see, okay, or hear. So those two things are to prevent cheating from seeing additional information on screens and hearing additional information by headphones, okay? So the way it works is we're not using Exemplify. So again, you're allowed to use your PCs as is. We are worried more about people cheating for obvious reasons rather than to lock down your laptop. So the exam is open book. So you can, of course, print anything out if you don't want to use your laptop, because sometimes having to refer and switch screens on the laptop is going to be troublesome. Okay. And then you have to have a secondary camera logged into Zoom, or you can use your webcam and just put it on the side for that. Okay, and the way you have to do it is put your picture a little bit like this so that we can see a bit of your screen as well as yourself, as well as your desktop. So these three things must be visible. Okay, so that's very important. Okay. So it's good if you can orient your phone in a landscape mode. That means that when we go to gallery mode to record as an invigilator, we'll see things at a better resolution without needing to click in and pin your video down. Okay. And you need to do some preparation. So you may be taking this as the first exam of the semester that you're doing. So you're going to have to familiarize yourself with it anyway. So you actually have to install this piece of software called FFmpeg, or use whatever recording device that you have on your laptop or desktop already. So for Windows, it might be the Xbox Game Bar. If you're on a Mac, then you could use QuickTime. And if you're on Linux, you could use OBS or FFmpeg, okay? So you have to set up the screen recording software and generate a file that you'll need to upload at the end of the exam, okay? So it says here you have to upload it to a designated Luminous file folder. So we'll create a file folder in Luminous just for the exam. I mean, we normally use Coursemology, right? So for Luminous, because you know, the space is bigger on Luminous, we'll use that, okay? So just to be clear, you only have a single screen and your exam taking application will not necessarily have to be in full screen mode, because obviously you can use two devices. So this is the exception to the protocol. You don't have to have it in full screen mode to do that. Okay, so you have to communicate with the invigilator. So if you have a question about the exam, you type it into Zoom chat. So if you can pretend that you have a question on the exam, you can type it to me now, okay, and then put it in Zoom chat, okay? And then the invigilator will answer you not directly, okay? They'll probably have to talk with me via a Teams or Slack, and then we will broadcast information back to you on Microsoft Teams or on Zoom, okay? It depends on how we decide to use it. Yeah, because again, different sessions may have more technical problems than others. Yeah, different sessions may have different types of technical problems. That's why it's important that we have two different ways of dealing with this, okay? So we will be using Microsoft Teams as well. So you have to check that every so often to make sure that there are no clarifications that come down there, okay? So our exam is a multi-part exam. So that means it's going to be broken down into 3 different parts. Each part is 25 minutes. And unfortunately, that also precludes the possibility of going back to a previous section, okay? So we try to arrange the sections nicely so that all of the MCQs are in one section, etc. Okay, so that's what you'll need to do. So just make it clear that you have to not communicate with anyone outside of the invigilator or the examiner. You're not allowed to have any other electronic devices to refer to. So even though we allow you to use the computer, just to make it fair to everyone, you're only allowed to use your own computer. no external monitors, okay? And just use the screen that you have in front of you, unless you turn your laptop screen off. Then you can use a outside one, and make sure the screen recording is of that external monitor. So Leslie has a question. I think you saw that on chat. Does the side camera have to capture the screen as the screen recording already to do the recording while we're having the exam? No, okay. So obviously there's a bit of a problem if your screen can be shown in the Zoom gallery and it's high res enough that we can see your answers, right? That would be bad, right? That's sharing information. So it's supposed to be a profile so that nobody can actually see the details on your screen, but just to show that you're working and facing your screen. Okay, so again, you can see what that looks like at the very top. Okay, so it should show a little bit like this. Okay, but it shouldn't show the visible parts too much. Okay, because your screen recording will show this, right? So you can slant your camera so that you can just barely see that the screen is on, and that's perfect, okay? So yeah, so as you see, the Zoom camera can see this, okay? Does that answer your question? Okay, so I hope that's a yes. Anyways, again, if you happen to be at home and your home has many siblings or is in a noisy place with construction, then you'll need to go to a quieter environment. So you need to let us know, okay? I know it says here 3 weeks. We will try to manage that for you if it needs to be, okay? So I hope you can have good network connectivity. Even I don't have good network connectivity at home. I think you already see me time out for a second there. So we'll try our best, okay? Again, you have to change your Zoom name to be the same as the one on your student card, okay? And then make it clear that everything is there, okay? And then you should put PC in the front to mean that that's the camera that the invigilators will be recording, okay? If it is your PC's Zoom display, okay? Right, so if you're using a side camera or a phone camera and you need to go into Zoom twice, so you can enter your invigilator's room using both your laptop as well as a phone device on the side, then you can just write your name without the PC, okay? The PC one has to be the one that's recording your profile, okay? I mean, your PC window. Okay, so you need to do those things. We'll let you know by email how which session you're joining, because obviously we have many students. We won't be able to watch everyone at the same time using one Zoom session. Okay, so you'll be going to different rooms to take the exam, and that your invigilator there will be able to communicate the details. The exam paper will be encrypted. It'll be something sent to you by email in something like the weekly email. So you'll need the decryption key that we will communicate to you by Zoom chat. So for example, it'll be like this. The password for the exam file is CS3244. Okay, so please start. Okay, something like that. So you'll have to key in the password into your PDF viewer. It will encrypt that part of the exam, and then you'll be able to take the first part, okay? During every session where we have the multi-part exam, there's 3 parts, there'll be a different password for each part, okay? So you need to make sure all 3 exams you've downloaded, each part of the exam you've downloaded, and that you are paying attention to Zoom chat or to Microsoft Teams, okay, to make sure that's disseminated to you, okay? You'll be also provided with your invigilator's email address as well as their contact phone, just in case there are problems. We'll try our best to monitor that and make sure everything is okay. You need to log in at least 30 minutes before the exam. Hopefully we'll be able to start fairly on time so that we can get everyone done by 6. Okay, it's only in an hour and a half, so we have room for technical problems, but because people are supposed to log in 30 minutes before, hopefully we can resolve that all by 4 o'clock. Okay, so do also make sure that you have the audio properly set up, have your student card ready for verification. Okay, and then you'll have to record your screen to do that. And after everything is done, then you have to submit the recording. Now, our exam is going to be done like this. So you'll get the exam paper. That's a PDF file. And you should just use your screen to see it. But you will need to enter your exam questions, okay, your answers to the questions into Coursemology. So it'll be just almost like what you're already experiencing for your notebooks, okay, meaning that there's one source of questions, but the answers you have to key into another system. Obviously, PDF files can't take responses, right? So you'll need to go to Coursemology. There'll be an assessment that only opens during the exam time, in which you need to fill out the information for that. So there'll be just questions. The options that we will give you will be MCQ options as well as short answer essay ones. So you're familiar with all of those formats. It's just that the options that are listed in the MCQ will just be generic ones. So say option A, option B, option C, option D. And that means you need to refer back to the PDF file of your exam to figure out which options are, what those options mean. Okay, we were not actually going to put all of the details of what the options are for in the test taking on Coursemology itself. So you need to refer back to the paper and make sure you have the right alignment for that. Okay, so once you've finished all of that and you finalize your submission, that will be assessed. Okay, and then you'll need to move on to the next session after a suitable bathroom break. Now, while that's happening, don't stop your FFmpeg recording. So your screen recording must continue for the entire 1.5 hours. So after that's finished, you need to upload the video. So you take the video and rename it to your student ID, okay? Then put it in the appropriate file recording in Luminous, okay? So that will be available within the next day or two so that you can see it when we make the announcement. And you need to do that within 3 hours or so, okay? So we'll be able to make sure that the screen recording actually sees the exam that you have and that you don't pre-record a video of some sort. Okay, now there are lots of contingencies that happen, like for example, Zoom could go down, Coursemology could go down, everything like this. So that's why we have a backup, okay? Everything's not foolproof, okay? But in any case, if the Zoom server goes down and you can't chat or whatever, you will have to use Microsoft Teams to communicate. So that means the passwords and everything will be issued through Microsoft Teams, okay? And that if you need to talk with us and even Microsoft Teams is down, you can use email, okay? All right. So that's the only thing that we have there. So if Coursemology goes down, there is a backup version of the exam that will exist on Luminous. So we basically have two sets of backups. Okay, one is to go to Microsoft Teams for communication when Zoom is down. Okay, and the other one is to use Luminous quiz over Coursemology assessments. Okay, so those are the two things that you'll need to do. All right, good. So let's see. Okay. So I'm going to ask you guys to share with me some information now on here. Okay, let's see. Can I get the text to work? No. All right. So tell me how we are supposed to take the exam. All right. So you know, if we are going to seek clarification by communication, what channel do I use? Okay. So by default, if I want to communicate with the invigilators, how should I do that? Okay. So Yeah. So in the second thing, what am I supposed to do if the primary ways goes down? Okay, so can you tell me either by chat or by annotating on the whiteboard how we are supposed to communicate uh, if the primary means goes down or the second, what is the primary way to do it? You can write your answer here. If the primary means goes down, what other ways can we do it? Okay, so Leslie is right. We do everything by Zoom chat first, okay, and also by coursemology assessments. If either of those goes down, you will need to switch to your backup. So for asking and answering questions, so Sudarsono is right as well, you will need to go and use Microsoft Teams for communication if Zoom is down, okay? If coursemology goes down, we can still accept answers on Luminous, okay? So you go to Luminous and take the quiz that will be sitting there. The quizzes are exactly the same format. Again, they only have generic options. So it'll say question 5, select option A, B, C, or D, and you just have to select one. So you need to refer to your PDF document to know what question 5 is. And then secondly, what is the options available for question 5, okay? So those are the things that I wanted you to make sure you know, because again, it's important that everyone get a fair shot at taking the exam. Fairness is a very big concern for everyone, but for me especially, because I think we've had a number of cases where that hasn't been fair for students, okay? So I ask you, please do take the mock exam seriously and make sure you know how to set up things properly, and make sure you have enough time to comfortably complete all of the pre-exam preparation, especially familiarization with the video capture software, okay? Great. All right, so I think I'm going to stop talking about that. And we only have one question right now, so I'm going to answer that. Then we will go back and do the lecture recap, because you know, maybe it's good to do it as well. So when we have a free class classifier, usually what we end up doing is having several different classifiers, one versus all classifiers, okay? So what I mean by that is, let's say you have a free class classification problem, then you basically have free binary class problems, okay? So class 1 versus everything else, which would be class 2 and free, class 2 versus 1 and free, and class 3 versus 1 and 2. Okay, so obviously this doesn't solve the problem if we have conflicts. I mean, what happens if one classifier says, class 1 classifier says yes, but class 2 classifier also says yes, right? So that is a big problem, right? So we actually have to arbitrate this using some type of confidence voting, okay? So that's the way that we've decided. That's the way that most classifiers do it. They run several different classifiers and add them all together, okay? So there are other ways of dealing with this by having a single classifier make classifications to multiple classes at once. So for example, in naive Bayes, we can actually do that. You saw the categorical naive Bayes basically has, calculates the score, you know, some odds ratio for every class. So when you normalize that distribution, you get a probability score that sums to 1 for all of the classes, okay? So certain classifiers can innately, like naive Bayes categorical, do classifications for multiple classes at once, okay? So there's been some question from Li Shuo, and Leslie has clarified as well. We were originally going to have a mock exam for this class, but when we realized the school was holding one for everyone and that our exam procedures were pretty much the same as most other courses, yeah, instead of having a mock exam, we have decided to go with what everyone else is doing. So we have basically This week in recess week, there are a number of mock exams being held centrally. If you haven't gotten information about that, let me know. Okay, we can, I'll make an announcement about how to sign up for a mock exam. So I think you should have gotten an email about it. Let me show you what that thing looks like. Okay, so let's see. I'm just going to show it to you. All right, so you should have gotten an email like this one, okay? So I've just shown you the exam standard operating procedure. That's the other document behind there, okay? But if you haven't gotten this email, then you have to actually log into this form with your NUS ID. So let me copy that link and I'll put it in the Zoom chat in case you don't have it, okay? So it's a very long form. So, you know, they don't have short links, never mind. Then you can select a mock exam that you have an exam for, right? So you need to do it obviously before the end of this week in order for you to have familiarity of it. Okay, so as it says here, the mock exams will only focus on certain aspects of the process, okay? How to set up your camera properly, making sure you know how to communicate with invigilators, and that's why we're also going it over here. Okay, so do visit this form to make sure you register if you haven't already, and visit this other URL if you haven't already. So can I just get a show of hands in the participants list if you have done or attended or are planning to attend a mock exam, or if you're a guest in a course like Ching Han, if you don't have any. Yeah, okay, great. So Leslie also says that Ivy Ng is taking the responses. Okay, so if you click on the form, perhaps you'll get that information. Let's see, is that what gets happen? Yeah, so anyways, you can accept registrations through the other way, okay? So you can find Ivy Ng's address. I'll try to get that for you as well. Leslie, if you happen to know it, you can put it on the chat and help everyone out. Okay, so great. So I'll continue to take questions on the poll, Ask Me Anything, but now I think it's a good idea to go over the week 6 material since you are expecting that, so that's good. So let me just pull up the slides here. Okay, so thanks everyone for helping with that. So Ivy Ng at NUS EDU SG, all in one word. Just in case you're watching the cast, because I don't think in the recording you can see the chat. Okay, very good. So let me pull up the slides for this week. All right. So I'll ask you a little bit about, I'll answer you about the intuition on the regularization scale weight, weight squared by lambda divided by m and not some other constant. The m is just to normalize it against the number of points so that we have a factor that's not specific to the data set. So lambda and C have an exact correlation with each other, right? So if you have a regularization budget, then lambda just fixes the amount of regularization per point. So there's no particular need to worry about that. It's just that we know that when we set regularization just a little bit, it helps a lot. So you don't have to apply a lot of penalty And usually the linear classifiers will go and fit the curves much better. Okay, so I'll leave that up for a while. Okay, but I will continue to talk about the second part of the lecture. Okay. So any other questions or things that you would like to discuss? If you have any, please unmute and then please ask me while the connection is still somewhat okay. Okay, so let's go on to the second